hello, great to have your company. Welcome to the Small Caps Podcast. I'm Peter Capsanis. Well, as the debate around nuclear energy in Australia rages, aspiring producer Elevate Uranium, that's ASX code EL8, has released an updated estimate for its Koppies project in Namibia. The new figure sits at 48 million pounds uranium oxide equivalent and increases the company's total uranium resources to 142 million pounds. That's a mouthful. It also represents a 42% increase in Elevate's total Namibian assets to 94 million pounds uranium oxide equivalent. So, what does all this mean, I hear you ask? Well, to tell us more, I'm joined by CEO and Managing Director Murray Hill. Murray, good to talk to you.
You too, and very good to talk to you.
You're in Namibia as we speak. Now, before we give the latest announcement, just give us a recap on Elevate's purpose and mission. Why uranium and why Africa, Murray?
Look, we got introduced to uranium in 2006 with a project in Namibia. We rode the uranium price down, but we realised, and I've been at the helm for 11 years, and we realised that uranium is extremely valuable. Call it a critical mineral, if you like, because, it feeds nuclear power plants. And without nuclear, how are we going to achieve all these targets that are being set for net zero carbon emissions and producing enough electricity for EVs? So nuclear is really becoming, we're getting a reconnaissance really, it's becoming quite important in our energy mix moving forward. And we strongly believe that uranium is significant for us going forward. And so we kept strong on staying with uranium, and we developed a large land position in Namibia and bought some assets in Australia during the low uranium price. So quite counter-cyclical to most other uranium people.
All right, well, fill us in on okay, so there's a path forward there, obviously, and a fruitful one.
Yep.
So you say. So fill us in on the details regarding Koppies, Murray. There's some pretty, as I said in my intro, there's some pretty impressive results there.
Yeah, no, it's very impressive. So Koppies is the first tenement we had granted outside of our sort of the Marinega project we held prior to increasing our land position. We started exploring on July 2019. We discovered uranium on it. We estimated a resource within the first 3 years of tenure on the tenement, which is unprecedented in the country. We estimated 20 million pounds, and then we started to realise that there's more uranium there than we thought. So in July last year, we brought a second rig in, and in May this year, we brought a third rig in. So we've had 3 rigs working on the Koppies project since May this year. We felt that we needed to let the market know what we were doing, so we decided to split the program into phases. And the next phase was the 48 million pound resource update. So very significant for us. I mean, it's now becoming our flagship deposit, flagship project in Namibia. I'm looking forward to the rest of questions you've got to ask because I want to jump ahead myself half the time because I'm excited about it, Peter. So I'll let you ask the questions because I know you've got a few coming.
I do, Murray. Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, let's not tease the investors too much who are watching, and everyone else, even mum and dad's watching at home. Look, so you've mentioned not one, but 2, but 3 drill rigs active at Koppies. So I'll cut to the chase. When can we expect more results?
Well, those drill rigs are working from Monday to Friday. The crew come back in on the weekend in the swap one where I'm sitting now, and they're drilling 5 holes per day per rig. So 3 rigs, 5 days a week, 75 holes, right? And each of those holes, about 25 to 28 metres deep, cost about $1,000 a hole, Peter. $1,000 a hole to drill. So it's inexpensive exploration. Well, for us, it's no longer exploration, it's resource drilling. So what we've done, we just announced this upgrade. The rigs are working on the southern part of Koppies, south of Koppies 2 and into Koppies 4. And we're expecting another resource update in Q1 next year.
All right. So tell us about the actual resource, the tenement itself, because it's quite shallow. It's literally uranium's kind of unearthing when you're kicking the dust almost, isn't it?
It's very shallow. It's fantastic, actually. In the announcement, we put a little map in there, or a figure that shows that 50% of the resource pounds are within about 6 metres of surface. 95% of the pounds, the resource, are in 15 metres of surface. So it's really, really shallow, one of the shallowest deposits around the world, uranium. So mining becomes low cost, low strip ratio. There's not much overburden to take off before you hit mineralisation. And your pits are probably going to go, in most areas, 15, 20 metres deep. You might chase a little bit deeper because there is some goes a little bit deeper in places. So they're very, very shallow, inexpensive mining, and that which obviously feeds into our upgrade process. So, inexpensive mining and then inexpensive processing, which I'll let you get to.
Yeah. Well, look, just in terms of the fact that it's a shallow site, if you will. So, I mean, and as you say, when it comes to cost, it's all relatively inexpensive compared to, I guess, other operations and for other aspiring producers. So, I want to talk about, in the long term, and I might be jumping the gun, but long term, the timeline, the longevity of this project. I mean, it seems as though the more you drill, the more you find. So, I mean, I guess you can have fun just scouring the earth for a while then.
Well, there's a couple of options we've got available to us. We get our resource updated in Q1 next year. Do we continue drilling for resource and third resource? Because, as you say, the more you drill, the more you find. And we've, as of this resource update, we have 1,400 holes planned. In fact, 1,410 holes planned, right? So an enormous amount of holes. So we've seen areas with Koppies 1, 2 and 3 where there's uranium we just haven't closed off yet. So it's moving, uranium's either east, west or north as well, and not to mention the southern one we're drilling now. So we know there's going to be more resource drilling, but we think Q1 next year we get a resource update out. It's obviously going to be significantly more than 48 million pound. We're then thinking that uranium price is going to be a significant level. It's sitting, at $74 a pound now. We'll have enough uranium in the ground to support maybe, if you're looking at, say, £2 million per annum. So do you go a 25-year life? Do you go a 20-year life? So we think there'll be enough, the project will be big enough that we then move, we take it to the next level. So we'll increase our confidence level in the resource by going from inferred drilling to indicated drilling. So at the same time, we'll run a parallel metallurgical test work program on our upgrade process, and they'll feed into a scoping study to put a line in the sand as to what the capital cost and operating costs will be for this project, but also flesh out options that we've got. And I want to talk about upgrade, so I will talk about it now. Upgrade is our process we developed in-house, right? And it lowers the cost for processing these style of ores by about 50% compared to conventional. And what it does is it rejects mass all the way through. So the very final stage is we concentrate uranium. We end up with less than 5% of the mass into a concentrate. So what that means is that we can leach that on site, that concentrate, and refine it to yellowcake, or we take it off-site to a third party to leach and refine. So if we do that, it lowers our cost base further because we don't have to build a leach plant, tailings plant, or tailings and a refinery. So it gives us optionality, and it's a totally, which development pathway do we take? Do we produce yellowcake ourselves, or do we take it to a third party? So we'll flesh a little bit of that out in the scoping study to understand which route we might take the project forward on.
Well, a lot of positives and a lot of options. I guess you're in the box seat. So I guess how does all this then play out in terms of tying in with all your other developments in your other Namibian assets?
Yeah, very well. What we've learnt geologically from Koppies 3, Koppies 4 discoveries, we can see some similarities on other projects. So we want to split those rigs up next year and send some out to explore on the likes of Capri and Hirabeb. We've got 16 kilometres of mineralisation those. We know we're going to do a resource drill program on those, but there's potential for a further exploration simply because of what we learned. That's only two of our sort of 12 tenements that we've talked about there with those, plus Koppies, Marinika. So there's 4. So there's 8 others we need to go and explore on as well. So the lessons we've learnt geologically from Koppies, we're going to apply to our other tenements and hopefully increase on our 4 discoveries over the last 4 years.
Well, Murray, let me ask you, what's the vibe like and the attitude from the government and the authorities on the ground over there compared to, say, authorities and regulators over here in Australia?
Very exciting. We had dinner with the Chamber of Mines CEO last night, and he's very positive on the outlook for mining in the country. The uranium mining history in Namibia goes back to 1976. Rossing have been continuously operating since 1976. No stoppage, no downtime for care and maintenance, ridden through the low uranium prices and the highs. Very supportive government, very supportive in terms of uranium. Namibia is the only country in the world that has a dedicated uranium association, conduit between explorers like us, producers, developers, and the general public, government, a lot of stakeholders. So they do a great job of promoting the industry. And the fact that we've got, now about to be the third mine operating, coming back on stream in Langaheinrich, there's Husab and Rossing. Koppies being developed, but not back on stream yet, still in care and maintenance. There's a strong history of uranium. So Namibia, 47 years of mining uranium, that's 2+ generations of culture that are very familiar with uranium and don't feel scared by it, as the Western world feel a little bit scared for no reason, but apart from sort of hype and emotion. So you're a very, very good place to operate, Namibia.
So how frustrating is it, if I can put it that way, then, that given you've got that lived experience and that cultural experience in Namibia, then compare that, with a place like Western Australia where there's 25 known uranium sites, and then there's no sort of moving forward at this stage. So it's a stark contrast, but it must be frustrating.
Oh, look, it's frustrating. It's government policy, and that government don't make decisions based on fact. They make decisions based on emotion and keeping their jobs. So they're trying to feed, the woke world that don't want to use uranium, but they want their lights to be, work when they want them. They want to charge their phones when they want them. But if they keep going down a path where we don't have reliable baseload energy, that's not going to happen. So we're seeing that happening in California and Germany. I mean, they've got huge moves. They have big moves away from uranium and nuclear, but at the same time, power costs are going up and more greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, just illogical. So, I think sanity will prevail in Australia. We'll end up getting, we'll get nuclear going at some stage and support uranium mining. It's only a small number of people that don't support uranium mining.
Well, we know that South Australia already has uranium mining with Olympic Dam, but in terms of Western Australia, you've got assets outside Namibia, which are some here in Western Australia. I think the Northern Territory. Can you tell us a bit about those assets and what are your plans? Considering, of course, taking into account the current policy on uranium mining over here in WA, but I guess how long do you hang on to them?
Sorry, Peter, we've obviously got a bit of delay. I'm sitting in the desert, as you can see. Behind me is the Koppies project. That's how easy it is going to be to mine Koppies, by the way. We're not dealing with forests and all these sorts of things. It's pretty easy mining, and pretty easy exploration. So coming back to Australia, look, we've got West Australia and Northern Territory assets. We've got the Thatcher Soak project in West Australia is a retention licence that's sitting there waiting for a high uranium price, and we're sort of sorting out access to Ubagooma up the north. Our focus will be next year on the Northern Territory assets, the Angela project, £31 million at 1,300 ppm, good-sized project just south of Alice Springs. COVID years, we bought these assets just before COVID hit, a few months before COVID hit. So, Perth is the most isolated city in the world. Well, our Premier made sure it was the most isolated city in the world, and we couldn't travel. So it was only up until, last year we could move out to the Northern Territory and do some exploration. So we did some geochem and seismic work at Angela, established that we found the mineralised lens that Angela is, and then we also found another lens underneath it. So we don't know whether that's mineralised, but we want to go and drill it and find out whether it is. The Minerva project is another one. It was discovered in 1978, 175 k's northwest of Alice Springs, just off the Tanami Road. 10 holes with intersections greater than 10,000 ppm. So we're talking big grades. So we want to go and drill that, understand the geology and the structures, and then work out how we're going to explore that further. So that's on our plans for next year. And the Northern Territory are far more receptive to uranium mining. I was at IMARC last week. The Northern Territory government come up to my stand and had a chat to us about what they do and what they want to do. and supportive in terms of uranium exploration. So very positive in that territory. So we're looking forward to the outcome of that work.
All right. Well, look, you've gone into some detail about the Namibian assets and the impressive results over there with Koppies, etc., and obviously looking forward with the Australian assets. So, anyone watching this show right now, Murray, anyone who's looking to invest in the market, and what would you say to them who want to perhaps invest a few dollars, and why should they consider Elevate Uranium?
Well, everybody should be considered uranium, right? So look for uranium stocks. And what differentiates us from our peers is we're actively exploring. We're the most active explorer in Namibia, and probably listed on the ASX. 3 drill rigs working flat out. We've got resource updates happening. We know we've got discoveries that we're going to drill out resources on them. So that asset base of pounds is going to increase with time. And we're also going to increase our confidence level at Koppies. And we've got more tenements coming on stream next year. The government have given us intention to ground a few tenements, and we've got some targets on those. So we expect that we're going to increase the number of discoveries. 4 in the last 4 years, we're going to increase on that. We're going to take some of those discoveries to resources. We're going to take the Koppies resource from inferred to indicated and commence the study phase on that. I haven't even talked about the Australian assets in terms of that summary. So, but we're heavily leveraged to the uranium price, but we're also leveraged to the activities that we're partaking in, and we're doing a fantastic job of discovering and building a resource base. So, if you're looking for a bit of upside in the uranium stock, there's very, very few companies with uranium in their name, and we're one of them. We're very proud to be in this industry. We're only focused on uranium, not distracted by any other commodity. And so we're going to see uranium pricing at over $100 soon, sustained at that. We're going to also see a lot of results coming out of Elevate Uranium, and looking forward to shareholder wealth growth. I think that's going to happen. That's inevitable the way we're moving forward.
All right, last one from me, Murray. Where's the demand for uranium coming from that we don't know about?
I was reading something the other day. India have got 26 reactors, building more. Middle East building them. The UK. The list goes on. It's not just Bangladesh is another one. South Korea, Japan are bringing a lot of their reactors back on stream. There's certainly a lot of activity that in countries you don't expect to. So Sweden are turning around. I read something the other day. I think Austria are turning around. In Sweden, we're going to close their reactors, and they've now decided they want more. So I think the world is realising that nuclear is extremely important. If they're going to try and achieve this low carbon emission energy and reliable baseload energy, nuclear is important. So I think there's a lot of countries around the world. I can't list them all, but there's certainly a lot through the Middle East and Europe and India, and Africa are talking about it. So there's a reactor down in Cape Town, but in South Africa. But more countries here are realising that they need a lot of energy, because our energy demand is going to increase exponentially the way we're talking about doing things, especially EVs. So a lot of countries around the world basically.
Indeed, the target, as you say, the target to net zero is an interesting one. So I'm sure a lot of people will be watching this space and wanting to know more. And good luck as we head into the new year with Q1, Murray. It's the good thing is I don't need to prompt you too much. You start talking positively about it, so it's always encouraging and refreshing to see someone who's very positive and happy in that space. So congrats to you on the latest results, and we do look forward to speaking with you again just around the corner on the latest results with Koppies and what might transpire with the other assets around Australia as well. So thanks again for joining us on the Small Caps podcast today.
Thanks, Peter. I mean, there's a lot of positive things to talk about. I've been in the industry for a while in uranium, and I'm excited where we're at. So I can talk for an hour or two on this subject and what we're doing and how we're going, but obviously we don't have the time. And I know you got questions coming, and I know I want to pause for them, but I also want to talk about how good it is. So I'm very excited. Thanks, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, mate. Well, look, we'll just call this part 1 of the Murray Hill Show, and part 2 will be on its way soon. How's that?
I'll work on a bit more material too.
I reckon you've got plenty. Murray, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for your time, mate.